Handicapper Steve here, handicapping the racing from Saratoga Racecourse here on Saturday. It's the 2nd of September 2023. Gonna look at the stakes races on the program from Saratoga, but before I get on to that, remember to please follow me on Twitter at Horse Racing Kid 5 for more selections for race courses around the world, and I mean it around the world. Some great racing tomorrow from Longchamp in France. Also next week, with no Saratoga, some great racing across the channel across the Atlantic, shall I say, at Haydock next week with the Sprint Cup, and also again Longchamp races. This is when the European races, especially in France, the next 2 weekends really starts to heat up with the Arc de Triomphe being in about 4 weeks time. So this is all the final prep races. So I hope you check out my French racing previews, and also the UK racing. You have the Sprint Cup from Haydock next week, and also the week after you have the St. Ledger, which is the final leg of the British Triple Crown. But today's card from Saratoga is very nice. So we have 12 races on tap. We're going to look at the stakes races, races 3, 5, 8, and 11. There we go. I lost my train of thought there for a second because there's so many fucking races. But let's look at the third race from Saratoga, which is the Flower Bowl Stakes. It's a grade 2 event going for a $500,000 purse race for fillies, mares, 4-year-olds, and upwards. Only 4 horses in the Flower Bowl, going 2,200 meters or a mile through 8 on the turf course. And it seems like every year this field size is getting just a little bit smaller and smaller. I wonder what the weigh at Aqueduct's going to kind of come up as, what kind of field size or what quality field you'll see next month at Aqueduct, because does it make sense to switch this race back to the fall at Aqueduct or Belmont, wherever they're going to be running sooner than later? But we'll have to wait and see. I'm going to take the 2-horse McCulloch as a top selection. Let's go 2-4 in your exacta. 2-4 exacta. I'll use them both in the multi-race, but the top selection is 2-horse McCulloch, 4-year-old filly by Frankel. Chad Brown trains. Ira Tees Jr. gets the mount. The horse's most recent outing came in the grade 2 Glens Falls here at Saratoga, a mile and a half on the 3rd of August. And the horse went by neck that day and just stalked all the way around the race course. It was a little bit wide, but this horse kept coming and had the ability to win. Quickened up nicely, beat home Warlike Goddess, who's a freak over the mile and a half. The graveyard of favorite strike that day. A 4.5 to 1 wasn't the best price in the world, but wasn't the worst price either. She had a very good run with a 95 buyer. Come back here to this turf course, furlong less. I think she could get a good trip and win. 2 backs were in the New York Stakes at Belmont, a mile and a quarter, 9th of June. She finished 3rd by 2.5 lengths that day. She was a little bit wide. She was closing up well late, but they were, basically walking at a geriatric pace on the front end. It wasn't even pedestrian. It was geriatric. When I call it geriatric, when they go over 115 to 3/4, that's when it's geriatric. 115 to about 112 and change to about 115 is pedestrian. Geriatric is a little bit, is above 115 and thoroughbred racing. If it was 115 3/4 in harness racing, that'd be quite cool. But we're not there yet. Maybe in 30 years' time. But in the New York Stakes, she closed up into a slow pace, but she wanted more ground. And her turf course does play towards front runners, especially that weekend at Belmont, where the rails were down for the first time all year. And then prior to that, Churchill, mile and 8th in the Modesty, she finished 5th by 3.25 lengths. The brown horses weren't handling the turf course at Churchill the last few seasons since they put it in. This horse just never really got going. I also think she needed the race there. And then the QE2 Cup at Keeneland, a mile and 8th in October. She finished 2nd by 1.75 lengths. She was a little bit wide that day, but she really had a decent turn of foot. And then she went over the mile 3 furlongs in the Jockey Club Invitational, Chalk Club Oaks Invitational at Aqueduct last September, winning by a half a length, much the best on paper. She went away with it, a very good run. Coming here to Saratoga, she could win here. She likes this trip. She likes this course. I think the 4-horse here, Amazing Grace, could win also. 5-year-old mare by Perfectionist. Christophe Command trains. Joel Rosario gets the mount. Most recent, the Glens Falls. She finished 3rd by 2.5 lengths that day, and she had a little bit of a bumpy trip that day and had to be checked a few times around the far turn, but she was gaining that day. They tried her against the boys in the Belmont Gold Cup over the 2 miles, where she finished 4th by 2.5 lengths. She moved a little bit late. I didn't think it was a half-bad race in defeat. And then prior to that, the Sheepshead Bay, first start here in New York, she finished 4th by 5 lengths that day. The ground was good, but it was a lot softer than we normally get. And I don't think the horse is handling it there. And then early April in the Orchid at Goldstream over the mile and a half, first start stateside. She won by a half a length, and she really quickened up nicely. Her buyers have been quite consistent to this side, the pond. She could win. I'll use her in the early pick 4. But to recap my selection for the third from Saratoga, it's the grade 2 Flower Bowl. Going to take the 2 horse McCulloch. Give kudos to the 4 horse Amazing Grace. 2-4 Exacta. Use them both in the multis. The fifth race from Saratoga now. It is the Prioress Stakes. It's a grade 3 event going for a grade 2 event going for a $250,000 purse race for 3-year-old fillies. Field of 5 horses going 1,200 meters or 6 furlongs in this year's Prioress. I'm going to take the 3 horse Unsung Melody. 3-5-1-4 for me in the superfecta. 3-5-1-4 super. Top selection 3 horse Unsung Melody. This 3-year-old filly by McLean's Music. John Ortiz trains, and Manny Franco gets to mount. The horse's most recent outing came the 14th of July at Saratoga, a mile in the Wilton Stakes, and the horse finished third by 11 1/4 lengths that day. You know, she left the track out of the gate that day, but then she just kind of hit the wall late. The winner was the next start winner. This horse just wasn't staying the mile. Back to 6 furlongs where she's proven herself, even with some tougher horses. I think she could get a trip to win. 2 back 18th of June at Ellis, 6 furlongs allowance race, 127,000. Facing older horses, she won by 3.5 lengths that day, and basically on the front end, she stalked, she got the lead, and she went away with it. A very good, strong run there. And then on an optional 100 claimer at Churchill, 6.5 on the 5th of May, excuse me, she finished ninth by 13 3/4 lengths that day, and she was flying on the front end that day, and then just completely crumbled. You know, the closers got to her that day, and then at Oakland, 6 furlongs in mid-March in main special weight, won by 1.5 lengths. She was flying that day. She showed a lot of speed at Oakland over the winter, and she was running against some very tough horses. Coming here, training well, cutting back in trip, she could definitely win. I think the 5 horse Dazzling Blue for Judmont and Joel Rosario and Brad Cox could definitely win also. Most recently in the victory ride closing weekend at Belmont over the 6.5, she finished second by 1.5 lengths that day, and she just kind of stalked that day. She wanted something more, but she ran her heart out that day back to stakes quality horses. Prior to an optional 125 at Churchill mid-May over the 3/4, she won by 8.25 lengths that day and came home with a 78 buyer. Not the strongest for you've ever seen, but she really got back to the race as well. It was her first race since Boxing Day at the fairgrounds, 6 furlongs in the in a black type stakes where she won by 3, and again on the front and all throughout, she really put on a show that day and won on debut at Churchill last November quite nicely. She's training well. You know, she could definitely win also. I'll use her on the ticket here in the pick 4. But to recap my selection for the 5th from Saratoga, it is the grade 2 Prioress. Going to take the 3 horse Unsung Melody. Give kudos to the 5 horse Dazzling Blue. 3-5-1-4 super. 3-5 in your multi-race. Let's head over to the 8th event from Saratoga. The 8th event, it is the Harvey Pack Stakes. It's going for a purse of $150,000, race for 4-year-olds and upwards. We have a field of 9 horses entered. 7, 8, 9 are MTOs. 6 will head to the Mellon Turf Course, the 1,100-meter journey, or 5.5 furlongs on the turf course here in the Harvey Pack, formerly known as the Lucky Coin. And it's good that they have a race named after him. Harvey Pack just came a little bit after my time, where he was on air daily, but I still remember watching him up at during his Saratoga mornings shows years ago, and very, very witty guy, very, very smart guy too, and if you ever watch it, watch the 1985 Breeders' Cup NBC broadcast. It's on YouTube in full. His opening with the I can't think of the famous broadcaster might be one of the funniest things I've ever seen in my life. But my top selection here, I'm going to go with the 4 horse Big Invasion. I'm going to go 4-5-3-2 in the superfecta. 4-5-3-2 super. Top selection of 4 horse Big Invasion. 4-year-old colt by declaration of war. Christophe Clement trains. Joel Rosario gets them out. First question: if I ever meet Christophe Clement, why did they send this horse to Royal Ascot off the 2-week refreshing? I thought that was a stupid idea. I wonder if it was his idea or is it the owner's idea, because they were just saying their heights a little bit too high. He ran 6 furlongs in the Queen Elizabeth Jubilee Stakes, where he finished 13th by 19 lengths there, or 9 lengths, beat 3 horses home, and never showed anything that day. They were just saying their heights a little bit too high. They should have just waited. I know I'm trying to think of a race between then and now, what's the big stakes sprint here on the East Coast? Something like, was it the Troy? Is the Troy for 3-year-olds and upwards or something like that, or is that for fillies? Can't think of it, but they should have stayed stateside and waited for a race. Just put an extra that race. 2 weeks prior, he ran the Jaipur Belmont over the 6 furlongs in the Widener, where he ran a massive race behind Caravel that day. Caravel freak, probably ran the race for her life. This horse finished second by 3/4 length and didn't get out of the gate so clearly. Was stupidly wide, but was closing up well on her turf course that wasn't playing towards wide and closing trips. You had to be on the front end to win, but he ran his heart out that day off the bench, or excuse me, second off the bench. Two back in the Churchill Downs turf sprint or Twin Spires turf sprint at Churchill, 5.5 in mid-May. He finished 7th by 4.25 lengths that day. Had a very trouble trip. He almost went down the backstretch and in the top of the lane also, which cost him. He just couldn't catch no balls there. And then the Silks run at Gulfstream, 5 furlongs in mid-March. He won by 3/4 of length. He stalked that day, a little bit wide, but he got the job done. Wasn't the fastest Spire of his career, but he got the job done there. His previous run in the fall, he ran at Kentucky Downs in the Franklin Simpson, where he finished third by 6.5 lengths that day. He did not get out of the gate so clearly, and he just was a little lackadaisical. I don't know if he handled the going. The quirkiness of Kentucky Downs. He ran here last year, won the quick call, came back to win the Mahoney last summer. He likes his turf, of course. He has a lot of speed if he wants to use it also, or he could do something different, or like he's been doing recently, coming off the pace to win, or come from the back pack, whatever. He could win here. I'll use him on the ticket. The 5-horse Hour Shock win also for John Terranova. Stepping up in a little bit of class here, but he won going on firm ground last month in an optional 80 claimer, winning by a head from a tracking trip. He really won for fun. A very good race for him there. Prior to them, to get serious, or the 5 furlongs at Monmouth, he finished second by 3/4 length, was stupidly wide, but again, he was gaining there. And then he won a very tough Keeneland turf sprint over the 5.5 in April, going away by 3 lengths with the 98 buyer. He has a lot of speed here. When he runs in turf sprints, his buyers go quite up. 2-1. Let's use him in the pick 4 here, or pick 5. Late pick 5 begins with this race. Let's use him there. So let's recap my selection for the 8th from Saratoga. It's the Harvey pack. Gonna take the 4s, Big Invasion. Also use the 5-horse Hour Shot, 4-5-3-2 Super, 4-5 in the multi race, and may the horse be with you in the Harvey pack. So let's get to the featured 11th race from Saratoga now, a race very rich in history. It is the Jockey Club Gold Cup. It's a grade 1 event going for a purse of $1 million, race for 3-year-olds and upwards. 8 horses are going 2,000 meters or 1.25 miles on the main track. My top selection, I'm going to go with the 8-horse Bright Future. I'm going to go 8-6-4-5 in the superfecta. 8-6-4-5 super. Top selection, 8-horse Bright Future. This 4-year-old colt by Curl in here. Tom Pletcher trains. Javier Castellano gets the mount. The horse's most recent ad came 21st July at Saratoga, mile and 8th, an optional 6-2 claimer. Cutting back in trip, cutting down in class. He won by 4 3/4 lengths that day, and it was a good confidence builder. Came back with the career best 100 buyer. He really took off clear from a tracking trip and won for fun. Back to 1.25 miles, which I think is his preferred trip. He is stepping up in class, but it's not the world's deepest race, and he's definitely run fast enough figures to win here. I'm going to give him a shot to win. They tried him 2 back, first time around 2 turns, going 1.5 miles in the Brooklyn Invitational at Belmont on Belmont Stakes Day, where he finished 8th by 43.5 lengths that day, and I was stupid enough to bet him that day. Next one for fun on the front end was the next star winner in the Birdstone. This horse was just wide, just wasn't keeping up. Stupid selection for me that day. Belmont Stakes Friday and Saturday, couldn't pick my nose, let alone a winner. Belmont Stakes Sunday, that the day after, I picked every single winner of the card. It seems I pegged AK Girl to hit the mid card pick 3. That was very nice. Walking the dog on the inner turf course there, but that's for another day. But in the Brooklyn, he just wasn't keeping up. Prior to that, an optional 80 at Gulfstream going at Churchill going a mile in mid-May. He finished 3rd by 3.5 lengths that day. He was a little bit wide, but he wanted something more. I didn't think he ran a half bad race. And then early April, Gulfstream Park on Florida Derby Day in a mile, an optional 25 climber. He won by 2 1/4 lengths there, and really took off clear from a tracking trip. Coming back here facing older horses, stepping up in class, I'm going to give him a shot here on the ticket. He could definitely win. He's fast enough to win on paper, and he's bred to go the trip. The biggest question with Tyson, the 6-horse, can he handle dirt? I think he can. He's bred for it. Josie Carroll trains this one. Manny Franco gets on this Canadian chipper. He actually started his career with Tom Pletcher, ran March of 2022 at Gulfstream on the Tapeta in a mile 16 main special weight, which he won by a length, coming home with the 78 buyer, and really, got around the race course well. It was a very easy run, but then you didn't see the horse for 14 months later. That came out in optional 32 at Woodbine over the mile 16th, where he won by 3.5 lengths, taking off clear on the front end, basically almost walking that day. Came back to running the Eclipse first time stakes quality horses, where he just never had a good trip from the back of the pack. and then won the Dominion Day and won the Segram Cup quite nicely at Woodbine last month. He's bred for a mile and a quarter. He's stepping up in a little bit class here today, and he's stepping on dirt for the first time. But I'm gonna give him a shot here. You also give a shot to the 4-horse Rattle and Roll. He's a cool horse. He ran in a matter of like 2-3 months. He ran 5 times and he won 3 of those races. He won the Ben Alley going a mile 3/16 at Keeneland. Came back to win the Pimlico Special by, I know, it was a very great Pimlico Special performance with the 101 Buyer, and came back to win the Blame Stakes, and then nearly won the Stephen Foster at Ellis over the mile and eighth. West Will Power just gamed it out on the front end, but this horse went against the track bias that day at Churchill at Ellis, where it was playing towards speed. He closed up into it, and I thought he ran a terrific race with the 101 Buyer. He's run 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 triple-digit Buyers as of recently. If you take a thoroughbred, the British Cup Marathon race, he's run 6 Buyers, triple digits in a row recently. He's a good horse. He's an old-fashioned horse that you can definitely win here at 9-5. I'll use him on the ticket. But to recap my selection for the 11th from Saratoga, it's Jockey Club Gold Cup. Gonna take the 8-horse Bright Future. Give kudos to the 6-horse Tyson and the 4-horse Rattle and Roll. 8-6-4-5 Super. 8-6-4 in your multi-race. So good luck to all, and please follow me on Twitter at HorseRacingKid5. May the horse be with you.